George R. Martin said there are two kinds of writers, architects and gardeners. Architects plan, gardeners plant seeds and see what grows. He said he's a gardener. Writers heard that and felt something close to relief. They think, fine, I don't need a plan. I'll just start writing and see where it goes. Then they reach chapter 8 and there's nothing there. What Martin doesn't say, what nobody really says, is that his garden has 10,000 years of history buried underneath it. Hi, I'm Andrea, the founder of bibisco, the novel writing software downloaded by more than 200,000 writers around the world. And in this video, I want to show you something most writing advice leaves out: the condition that makes writing possible in the first place, so that when you sit down, you are not building the world and the story at the same time. One of those jobs is already done. Here's what usually happens. A writer starts a novel. The first chapter feels good, the second too. There's momentum. Then, somewhere around chapter 5 or 6, a character needs to mention something, a past event, a place they have been, a conflict from years ago. And the writer stops, because they don't know the answer. They never decided. So they do one of two things. They invent something on the spot and later it contradicts something from chapter 2, or they stop writing to figure it out. They open a new document. They start building, reconstructing, thinking, and they don't come back. The manuscript goes quiet. Days pass, then weeks. Most writers assume this is a discipline problem, a motivation problem. I'm not sure it is. Martin talks about gardening. Writers hear freedom. What they don't hear is the rest of it. Before anyone had read a single page, Martin had already drawn the maps by hand. Every continent, every kingdom, rough sketches on paper, forests marked in green, location coded by size and type. The world had a shape before the story did. And in October 1993, before A Game of Thrones existed as a book, before anyone knew the name Westeros, he wrote a pitch letter to his agent. He described the 5 key characters whose stories would drive the series. He laid out the central conflict. He outlined the arc of what he thought would be a trilogy. That letter came before the first chapter. Years later, when readers wanted more of that world, Martin didn't need to build it from scratch. The world of Ice and Fire, the history of Westeros, its wars, its dynasties, was assembled partly from notes he had already given to his co-authors. There was more material than they could publish. Fire and Blood started as a footnote and then it grew into a book. The world was already there. It just needed a place to go. Well, I think that Martin is not a man who doesn't plan. The freedom Martin describes, that openness when he writes, that sense of discovery, it's real. But it doesn't come from having no structure. It comes from having a structure so complete, so thoroughly built that he no longer needs to think about it while he's writing. He doesn't stop at chapter 8 because the world is already there. He already knows what happened 2,000 years before chapter 1. Think about what that actually means. When he writes a scene in King's Landing, he's not inventing the city, he drew it. When a character references a war from 3 centuries ago, he's not making it up in that moment. That knowledge doesn't appear in the text, but it's in every line. You feel it when you read. If this is landing for you, if you are recognizing something in your own writing process here, it would mean a lot to leave a like and subscribe. This helps this channel reach more writers who need to hear it. And here's something that's easy to miss. When you don't know your world, part of your attention is always there. In that uncertainty, waiting, checking, quietly worried that what you write now will break something you haven't decided yet. You don't always notice it. It feels like hesitation, like writing slowly, like stopping to reread last week's chapter for no clear reason. The story is asking questions you can't answer yet. Most writers assume this is a discipline problem or a motivation problem, but look at where the stopping actually happens. It's almost always the same moment. A character needs to reference something, a place, a past event, and the writer doesn't know. So 2 jobs end up happening at once: building the world and writing the story, and they pull in different directions. Martin's condition look from the outside like pure creative freedom, but that freedom has a foundation. The world existed before the story started, in notes, in maps, in documents. That's what makes the garden possible. Martin worked in physical notebooks, separate documents, loose papers. Everything existed somewhere, but nothing was connected. In Bibisco, it all lives in one place. This is where your world starts. Every location has its own profile, geography, history, who controls it, what happened there before your story begins. You build this before you write, so when a character arrives somewhere, the place already exists. Same thing for your factions and organizations, their goals, their internal tensions, the history between them. When Martin writes a Lannister, that character carries a centuries of family history into the scene. Readers feel it even when it's not explained. That weight comes from somewhere. This is where you build it. Your characters go here, and this is how they connect. Not just who they are, what they want, who is in their way, what they owe each other. When you can see that before you write, conflict stops being something you invent. It's something you find. It was already there. And here is the history of your world, not the story, what came before the story. So when a character references the past, you are not deciding in that moment. You are pulling from something that already exists, like Martin does. Martin says he's a gardener, but is also someone who spent 30 years preparing the soil. The freedom isn't separate from the preparation, it is the preparation. When that foundation exists, when your world lives somewhere outside your head, something shifts. You hesitate a little less. You move through scenes more easily. You stop going back to the beginning less often. If you want a novel writing software built around this idea, a place where the world exists before the story starts, Bibisco is free to download. The link is in the description. Happy writing and see you in the next video.